And we should be live right now. Hey, what's up,
Okay.
folks? Thank you for joining us today. Let me switch my screen real quick. Got me, Kevin, you know me, Adrian. A lot of y'all who have watched our videos in the past also know him. It's been a team member of BFB for quite a while now, since the beginning, actually. And we have a really great live stream for y'all today. We're going to talk about the upcoming Coinbase IPO. We're going to talk about some on chain metrics and where we are in the cycle. And if we're in a super cycle, we're going to talk about some other fun stuff like BitClout that I made a video about a couple weeks ago. We're going to talk about new regulations and how that's going to affect Bitcoin's future, whether that's going to take Bitcoin off of its super cycle or whatnot. It's a lot of juicy stuff, and we'd love to hear from you too in the live chat, by the way. So drop us some comments, drop us some questions. Love to have you here. We're going to wait a few minutes before we start diving into our topics. But one sec, let me switch here. Can you guys see my screen, by the way? Can you see my screen, Adrian?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah. So, crypto markets, kind of sideways right now for Bitcoin and Ethereum for the top ones. It seems to be a little bit of a mini alt season so far. Oh, wow. A lot of them have gone down in the past 24 hours. But if you look at the 72-hour, or not the 72-hour, the 7-day charts, a lot of them have had massive gains. Right now, we're taking a little bit of a chill. And let me switch to by market cap. Yeah, we have some people in the comments. Can see the screen, hear news. What's up, Adrian? By the way, I'm not sure if you guys watching, if your screen is a little bit behind, but if it ever is, just click on that live button so you can jump hopefully to the absolute latest to what we're looking at too. One other thing I wanted to look at is right here, the dominance. There was a big debate recently because someone was pointing out how Bitcoin's dominance is like trending down here, and it could like go up massively during the bear markets, but the overall trend is showing a slight but steady downward. So that was a big debate between the maximalists and the non-maximalists, that I just wanted to point out here. They were also making fun of
Yeah.
Ethereum. It was funny because um, I don't know how many of y'all have heard of Clubhouse. Have you heard of Clubhouse, Adrian?
By word, I think. Not sure what it is.
Yeah, so Clubhouse is like a live chat room where like everyone can go in and just like listen to people have long form conversations about stuff. And it was funny, like a group of Bitcoin maximalists was saying that um, Ethereum was about to drop down due to the ratio of death. Let me see. And they said that about right here.
And why was that
0.02.
supposed to be the ratio of death?
Because this 0.02 ratio was supposedly like a critical level that if Ethereum BTC ratio dropped through that, it would have been like never recover, according to them.
Oh, I see.
But then
Yes,
it pumped up
I see what you
majorly
mean.
afterwards.
Yeah, because it did go down through one of that important support levels, I believe. It did go down briefly, but then indeed it came back and starts rallying again. So it looked very bad for, I believe, a few days or weeks, but then it all came back to
Yeah,
life. But
it was
still,
quite
Ethereum, but still, clearly, Ethereum has a long way to go back to the ratio it had in
right.
2017.
Right, exactly. Okay, we got quite some folks joining us. Thank you for joining us. Like I said earlier, we're going to talk about Coinbase IPO. We're going to talk about on-chain metrics, supercycle stuff, and some regulation stuff, how that's going to affect Bitcoin. A lot of fun topics today. Thank you for joining us on this live stream. We don't usually do live stuff, but we're going to try to do it at least once a week. We're going to try. And Adrian's going to come share because he's been doing a lot of research behind the scenes, but it's good to have this like multi-person conversation. And so let's get going. If you guys are watching and you're a little bit behind, then definitely click that live button on your YouTube player just so you can jump to where we are now and just be at the latest of the conversation. So I'm gonna start with my Coinbase topic. As you all know, we've been waiting for their IPO, or more specifically their direct listing, for a long time now, because they filed their S1, they filed their docs with the SEC like months ago, and usually what happens is that they are listed or they launch shortly after, like a few weeks or a month tops. But they've been delayed for a bit, but now we finally got news that it's coming on NASDAQ on April 14th. So in a couple weeks from now, April 14th. Wait, let me share my screen back here again.
That's even like 10 or 11 days or something like that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Look, it
Even
was
less than 2 weeks.
originally scheduled to take place in March, but they announced it'd be postponing, and they got the ticker symbol coin, so that's awesome. That's an amazing amazing symbol, by the way. And yeah, it's really interesting because they have been trading on the private markets, like the secondary private markets in NASDAQ already, and been trading pretty high with a valuation of between 90 to 100 billion. And I believe if you look at their trading market on FTX exchange, it's like a derivatives, like contract for difference type of trading, then it's like 464 per share, which makes it even more meteorically higher. And so this is something that we made a video about this a few weeks ago, and that did really, really well. So a lot of people are looking forward to this. I think some people are like, yes, I'm going to ape into Coinbase and buy the shares when it first comes out, smash that market buy. And other people are like, why would you buy Coinbase if you can buy Bitcoin instead, right? So, but I think the one big benefit of this is that people who didn't want to buy Bitcoin, like the Wall Street types, the Buffett types, people like that, they can buy Coinbase and get a cash flow generating business that's still indirectly tied to the space. So that's much more like amenable to your older investors or like institutional investors and so forth. And it gives them access to the space.
Yeah, but you can now also buy Tesla, right?
Yes,
And then
Tesla.
you're also indirectly investing in Bitcoin, right? Because they have it on their balance sheet.
Yeah, Tesla and also MicroStrategy, right? Remember
MicroStrategy,
Michael
yes.
Saylor? He's pretty much turned his failed SaaS company into a Bitcoin fund.
Yes.
I remember when people were like, okay, why doesn't he just fire all of his like engineers and all those people and just hire a few Bitcoin fund managers? Like, how many do you need, right? Just hire 10 Bitcoin fund managers. He does the shilling on TV, and he does the teaching other CEOs how to get it on their balance sheet. That's kind of how it goes, right?
So you can actually buy exposure to Bitcoin through at least several companies already on the stock market, right? Essentially.
Yeah, yeah. But
So you
Coinbase is
don't
the
really
biggest
need
one.
Coinbase for that.
Coinbase is the biggest one though, and they do have amazing numbers in terms of their financial statements.
Yes.
And actually, I kind
Yes.
of wanted to take a quick look at that.
Like you said in your video, like they already have some profitability, which is quite
Which is amazing.
even rare with, yeah.
With IPOs coming out, some of them are like like never had a single dollar made in revenue, which is ridiculous. Like Virgin Galactic and things like that, right? But
And even Coinbase not only makes revenue, but even has some profitability.
yeah, yeah, that's or they had profitability in 2020. They had losses in 19 and before. But
Right. But they turned profitable in 2020, and considering how the market goes, 21 should even become better, right?
exactly, exactly. You kind of jumped the gun here because I have
Oh,
some details
sorry.
about that. No, 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 that's totally fine. And I think they timed it perfectly, right? Because you don't want to IPO in a bear market. That would be bad. The revenues would be down. People would be like, "This sucks." But at the heat of the bull market, IPOing is like amazing timing. Amazing
Yeah,
timing.
that's at least an advantage. Yeah,
For
for
sure, for
sure.
sure. One sec. Let me. So, one quick thing is I noticed an article about the bear case of Coinbase about seeking alpha, and then I have something about the bull case. So I want to kind of read a little bit of excerpts from each one and talk about where we think where I think it might be headed in the short term, midterm, and long term, and what I'm going to do myself. But so seeking alpha, more a little bit more of like a traditional finance publication. They're not a fan of Coinbase's high valuation. They um oh, this isn't the right one actually. This isn't the right one. Okay, one sec. Let me see. Seeking alpha. Where would it be? Seeking alpha Coinbase. Oh, right here. This is their opinion piece. Highly overvalued at $100 billion valuation. And um, it's funny because, like, the market's frothy right now. None of these valuations are like mattering. Companies are rocketing 10x, even on the stock markets. And they're still trying to do a traditional valuation, saying that their base case is 40 billion. And remember, the private market shares were trading at around 100 billion. And so
Yeah.
they compared Coinbase. Let me know what you think about this. They were comparing Coinbase to traditional stock exchanges like NASDAQ, Euronext, and Intercontinental, which is the parent company of NYSE, New York Stock Exchange. They're doing comparisons with that,
Yeah,
which is kind of
yeah,
weird in
that's
my mind
a bit of
because yeah, it's like Coinbase is the leader of a brand new like industry, and Bitcoin is like
right.
taking over the hearts and minds of the world, and they're trying to compare it with some like old school exchanges doing
Yeah.
like they say their base case valuation is
Uh,
based on 31x the company's sales of 1.3 billion dollars. This price to sales multiple is based on 5x the average P to S multiple of its peers, including the ones I listed before. And so,
yes, but because obviously in stock valuation, also a lot of expected future value is incorporated,
exactly,
and that's based on what are people expecting of growth of the company. Obviously, with a legacy stock exchange, you can't really expect the same type of growth numbers as Coinbase might
exactly.
experience just by means of the cryptocurrency market growing.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. One other part that they did mention that I think is fair though is that Coinbase's business model mainly involves Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are exposed to higher volatility and uncertainties, which is definitely true. The volatility part. We are going to touch on this in a bit in the super cycle discussion, but that is one thing that I think they have to be worried about. Like right now, bull market, things are hot. And we don't know how the next bear market is going to look, how it's going to play out. But if investors start to chill more and are just less excited in general, then that could be an issue. Unless they, because if I remember correctly, most like 90% of their revenue and their profits are from transaction fees. And like, yes, Coinbase,
Coinbase, right?
right, right. Like Coinbase did help Tesla facilitate their big, huge chunk of purchase, but that's still a small part of their business. Like I don't know how much Tesla paid them to help with that, but Coinbase's like big exchange fees, pricey exchange fees, are what costs or provides for most of their revenue. And so that is, if that
Right.
dries
From
up,
retail investors.
well, retail and institutional. Institutionals get better fees than
Right.
us, but they do gouge us for the fees. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of other stuff on here about the bearish case, but one thing that they say, which I think is fair, is that they do face high competition from new competitors, whether it's Square with their Cash App, Robinhood, PayPal, and other crypto exchanges like Voyager. Well, Voyager is like more of a brokerage, but still, like people have more options. There's going to be more options from all sorts of places offering the ability to buy and sell Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other crypto coins. So they can't
Yeah.
stay pat. They're king of the hill right now. They can't stay pat though. That's for sure.
Yeah. And for example, like Binance is also trying to set foot on the market in yeah, the American market, for example.
They have Binance
So
US. Binance US. Not as good as
yeah,
Binance.com, but good enough, I guess.
yeah.
I wish they offered more coins, but alas. Here is a really interesting article. Can you see my? Let me zoom into this tweet. So this is a lot of numbers, okay, but I'm gonna try to break it down for you guys. So they said they did 1.3 billion in 2020 revenue, which is a lot. But like I mentioned earlier, most of their profits or their revenue comes from their fees, which is directly proportional to the volume. And so this guy, this John Street Capital on Twitter, saying he tried to extrapolate based on the percentage of average daily volume. I believe that's what ADV stands for, of BTC and ETH, and adjust for the percentage to calculate the fees. And he said there's a chance they did greater numbers in Q1 of 2021 than in all of 2020. Because remember, the
Wow.
bull market really started heating up when, like Q4, the start of Q4 of last year,
Yeah,
right? It's when it really
yeah,
started to
maybe
pick up.
November, December. So at the end of Q4 even.
Exactly, exactly. So I mean, right now it's really hot, and let me click into this. Can you see this, by the way? Yeah, I think you can see this.
Yeah, yeah, it's clear enough for.
So, um, basically, they got Bitcoin's average daily value or average daily value and Ethereum's average daily value, and this was much larger than like pretty much all of it combined for 2020, since Q1, Q2, Q3 of 2020 was not that poppin' per se.
Mhm.
And so, depending on what fee multiple average you apply, they could have made 2 billion in revenue in just Q1. And so they're going to announce Q1 and results, numbers, and discuss on April 6th. So that's just a few days from now. And if they did even better, then that means their IPO could go heck. I mean, 100 billion, I'm talking like rocket to 200 billion in the first like week or so
You mean the first week after listing,
after listing. Yeah, exactly.
right?
Exactly. I would not be surprised if they went to 200 billion whatsoever, even though by any traditional metrics that is that is a pretty ridiculous like slap in the face of value investors based on how they do their analysis in terms of price to sales or whatever analysis they want to do.
Yeah, but still, it's a company that makes revenue and is probably profitable.
Exactly.
So
Um,
yeah, so I saw a small question in between, which I didn't really understand what he was referring to from Jesse Herman.
okay.
He said, random question, but what is your opinion on this whole hashtag Save Moon pump? I actually haven't heard about that. Do you know what it is?
I have heard of Safe
Save Moon
Moon. I
pump.
believe it's one of those smaller cap coins on Binance Smart Chain, and a lot of
Yeah.
people have been asking me to get on that, but it's rocketed way too much. I think it might dump heavy too. I mean, you know how it is during altcoin season. A lot of stuff pump like 20x gains, things like that. That's kind of one of those
So it's
projects.
kind of the usual smaller altcoin pumps,
Yeah,
pump and dumps probably.
I don't think it's that safe to get in on those, to be honest.
Right, 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 right.
But just a quick note though. So in March, if you remember, the stock markets. Let me just go to Nasdaq. Right, Nasdaq. 6 months. In March, the stock markets, especially for like growth stocks, like Nasdaq type stocks, were falling down pretty heavy compared to other ones like the S&P or the Dow. Um, and so I think it was good that Coinbase didn't list during that time because they might have fell to the fate of other tech companies too and dropped down just with like the overall tide per se of like high growth tech place. But one interesting point, and I was trying to find this tweet before the stream started. I found a tweet where they said like SPACs or special purpose acquisition companies were drying up. Interest in them were very drying up. They were like another new thing during the hot, frothy market bubble per se that were people were going crazy about. IPOs are also going crazy, but now they dropped a lot too. Here's a ETF, the Renaissance IPO ETF, and see that in February it's like dropped a bit since it's bounced back a bit, but the point is they're not popping off as much as they did earlier this year, like January, February, when IPOs would list, they would pump like 2x instantly. It'd be crazy. But a lot of those have gone back down to earth a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
I think how the market looks also will affect Coinbase too. Like, is the market back to getting in its frothy nature again? Or are IPOs and SPACs as a whole also going to underperform and people are going to be more hesitant as before? I think that's a big question that
But
they don't really have in
but
their
there might
control per se.
but there might be at least some short-term exuberance about the fact that Coinbase is, of course, a cryptocurrency company.
Exactly, exactly. That's absolutely true. And I know some people there's a lot of strong feelings. Some people say they're going to stay away, and other people say they're going to like sell some of their Bitcoin and buy Coinbase stock too, like market buy. They don't care what the first day price is.
And then just go with it YOLO, so to say.
Yeah, yeah, YOLO, YOLO, because they want to get a piece of the first big exchange.
Right.
Let's.
And Lojo made a comment which is also slightly related to this.
Uh huh.
He or she says, ICE is bringing BACT to the market in a merger with VIH SPAC. Does that say anything to you?
I know Backed was trying to go public. You remember Backed, right? Didn't you do some research about them
Yeah,
before?
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's why I bring this up because I
Yeah,
know
Back
that
is going
the
to merger. Lojo is exactly right. Back is going public with a merger. Did that happen already though? I don't. VIH. BIH stock. Well, this is its price action.
Yes.
When did they announce that? They
But
announced that. Oh, they announced
in
that here.
January.
Yeah, they announced. You see this
Yeah,
big
in
spike right
January.
here?
Yeah.
This spike right here. This was caused by that announcement. But it's kind of like dropped back down to earth a little bit since then. Market cap of only
But
300 million. Interesting.
but it says it's bringing back to the markets in a merger. So
Right.
does has the merger already occurred?
I'm not sure if it has already occurred or not. To be honest, I'm not sure. That's something we'll have to look at
Right.
later.
But at least some of it is already priced in the price action in January, we
Right.
should assume.
Right. When it announces something like that, that's usually how it goes. But I think next I want to touch a little bit about the Bitcoin supercycle. I made a video about this. I don't know if you guys remember, but it's an article and a theory by Dan Held right here. And he argues that this time it's different for a few main reasons. Like institutions are in by force. A lot of people saw the light because of massive printing due to COVID stimulus. And what else? This isn't the actual article, actually. Right here. The Held Report, Substack. Macro backdrop, right? That's what I mentioned earlier. The institutional herd is here by force. And then the narrative change. It's digital gold now. There's no confusion. There's no forks. Remember, by the way, I remember you predicted like years ago, Adrian, that you thought Bitcoin forks were going to take over the top 10 of CoinMarketCap, or that it was
Did I?
possible. I think it was more of like a funny like quip because
Oh, right.
remember like Bitcoin SV, Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin Cash, they were all like top 20 coins at some point, and people predicted that
Yes.
like all the other coins would be like worthless and these would be like the only ones in the top 10. But it turns out that that's not the
Uh,
case. Fast forward 2 to 3 years,
and it's
and
still Bitcoin BTC.
Bitcoin BTC is a singular narrative. That's what gives it more strength. And there's a lot better infrastructure this time around. You can buy it with, of course, our own crypto exchanges, but also PayPal, Robinhood, Cash App, SoFi, which someone in the chat mentioned earlier, by the way. Who was it? Let's see. I don't remember. I don't see it right now. But yeah, I mean, that means he's predicting a super cycle, which means we're headed up faster and stronger without big drops ever again. Just because, like, all these reasons, people are buying and not selling. Institutionals have diamond hands per se, which means they're not going to fear, like, a big drop like retail does. You know how retail starts complaining when there's like a 30-40% drop. Institutions are not going to dump at the site. They're not going to swing trade like us.
Right, right. And they're usually in for the long term anyway, so there is
Yeah,
no panic selling usually with the big institutions. However, obviously, also they have like a breaking point, um, and that can happen, but then the market really has to like go really, really low.
I don't
But
think
if
they
they start
necessarily,
to sell,
or I was going to say, I don't think they necessarily have a breaking point, but I don't think it's reasonable to expect them not to sell either because they have to like do
right, right,
quarterly rebalancings for funds, and if it gets to be like too much, they might rebalance just to like make their exposure back to their normal levels. So I don't think it's reasonable. I just don't think they're gonna like day trade and swing trade and panic sell like that.
Oh,
They're,
that's absolutely true.
they're
Yes.
gonna do so on a more like professional and just periodic basis.
In
And
general, yes.
Suntex, on which exchange is Coinbase going to IPO? Nasdaq. Nasdaq. You should be able to access it on different brokers too. And also, guys, if you aren't on the latest yet and you're just hearing this, press that live button on your YouTube player so you can jump ahead to the latest and get caught up to speed with what we're chatting about now. But one thing I wanted to share with you is this is really interesting because the beauty of Bitcoin is that the blockchain is public ledger, right? So we can see what people are doing. We can see what whales are doing. We can see what guppies are doing. We can see what long-term holders are doing. Doesn't matter. We can see all these things transparently, whereas in the stock markets, it's all hidden, essentially, from us. But one thing is exchange net flow. Like, are coins flowing into or out of exchanges? And what does it mean, right? Mostly that is a bullish action when coins are flowing out of exchanges because the concept is that if it's flowing out, you're going to hold it for long term and it's just not available there on the spot to trade and to sell, right? You're like going into cold storage, you're going into custody, or maybe you're going into a staking and like passive income service, but regardless, it's moving out of an exchange where it has the ability to generate sell side pressure and going elsewhere that is not as available to sell side pressure. So if you look at here, let me pull this up.
So what you then mean is if it goes out of the exchange, it will take away sell side pressure, or
At least be much less available to turn into sell side pressure. Like they have to send it back before it becomes immediate sell side pressure. And so
right.
if you look here, things are definitely different because during the last bull run, things were flowing into exchanges, right? People wanted to sell too. Hodlers wanted to sell. But right now, if you see this green, this is in 2020, 2021, things are flowing out of exchanges faster than ever before. I mean, institutions aren't going to have and hold. Like, do you think Tesla is going to hold all their, how much billion, like, few $1 billion of the Bitcoin on Coinbase? No, they're not. They're going to hold it in, like, an institutional custody vault or something really safe. They're not going to get hacked. So things are flowing out, and I agree. I think that's bullish. I think that's really bullish until this graph changes.
Can you see further in the past actually
This is
with
2017.
that graph?
I can't see further in the past, but also like pre 2017, were there even any like huge volumes? I feel like if you stack the volumes next to each other, it's like
Yeah.
inconsequential per se. Pre
Yeah,
2017.
2016 already was not even close to 2017, I believe.
Exactly. Not because like the infrastructure wasn't there. It was only like guppies back then playing around. No institutions at all. Kuzan Hemet asked a great question. He said, "What happens if a country decides to buy all the rest of the Bitcoin supply? Would that country run the world?" That is quite something interesting to think about. I've always thought that, like, you know how they say the cycles are how Bitcoin matures, right? Last cycle was retail. This cycle was institutions. Next cycle, could it be nation states? Could they buy up all the Bitcoin? Like, what happens if,
But
like,
that's about virtually impossible to buy all Bitcoin, right?
right, you can't buy all the
I mean, not
Bitcoin,
all
but
Bitcoin. It's not just not going to happen because some people aren't just going to sell their Bitcoin,
yeah, mine is not for
especially if
sale,
a
too.
big buyer, especially if a big buyer um, is pushing the price up massively. If a government is actually going to try it, but yeah, that digit is just going to
Exactly.
move up,
But
and it's going to be like insanely expensive.
That is true, but they could like print money, right? Or just coerce and take money and just like market buy as much Bitcoin as possible. I think
Yeah, but
this
then they're
this
just going to destroy their own currency, right?
yeah, that's true. This is a little bit not, or this is, I don't want to touch on your topic that much yet. We'll get to that in a bit. But this is funny because I've been thinking about that. Like, if a country starts buying up a lot of Bitcoin, and like if a big country starts buying up a lot of Bitcoin, that might get bigger governments scared, and they might like do some bad regulatory or legal action against Bitcoin if they're like, hey, why is like this enemy country buying up all the Bitcoin? Right? That's, I think that's something
They're
that's,
accusing North Korea from buying a lot of Bitcoin, right? That's
well, the North
or
Korean
having a lot of
hackers,
Bitcoin.
the North Korean
Yeah, like
hackers are
hackers.
stealing
Yeah,
all the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Bitcoin.
yeah.
That's for sure.
But
But
at least North Korea having a lot of Bitcoin, so they're trying to demonize Bitcoin with that, you know.
yeah, and I know that's getting a little bit into your topic too in a bit, but I want to finish this one real quick. So for on-chain charts, that, let me give a shout out to him. MMBTC is is bullish, and there's a lot of stuff, but huge exchange outflows, constant low exchange inflows. Where's the outflow? Ah, right here. You can't really see this, but the price, I believe, is the black line right here, and the Bitcoin on exchanges is the other axis, is this blue line. And at the very end right here, you see a huge plummet. Like, you can't see because it's covered by us, but trust me, it's a huge plummet. And so that is the balance of Bitcoin on all exchanges. It's on a downtrend and it's falling a lot. And so that means what I said earlier, it's bullish. Less immediate sell side pressure. That's going for long term storage.
And less Bitcoin available on exchanges to available to buyers, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And then here's the last one. It's the same thing. Exchange inflows, outflows. Higher outflow is bullish. Higher inflow can be bearish, but also can be for alt purchases. So Coinbase Pro, this is
Yeah,
by Crypto Quant. Look, beginning of this year, huge exchange outflows. Look at that huge spike right there. Wow. Huge
yeah,
outflows.
because you can remember in the past that people were sometimes shocked if a big batch of Bitcoin was sent to certain exchanges, right? They were like, oh, there is some sell pressure coming in. So those movements might indeed have opposite consequences price-wise, right?
Right.
One could say.
And the last point I wanted to touch on for my topic right here. Wait, let me share my screen again. Okay,
Oh,
so this
someone
is
asked, Lo Say Chow asked, better question is it possible for exchanges to run out of Bitcoin?
not completely, but if we do run out of most of it, then anyone who sells is going to rocket the
Pe-
price immensely, right? Like someone could put a sell order for $1 million. If someone wants to buy it and there's nothing else available, then our technically Bitcoin would be worth 1 million.
Yeah,
That's
true.
what people don't understand. They're like, how can Bitcoin get to 1 million? Where's all that value going to flow into Bitcoin? But it doesn't need to though. Like if there's not a lot of sellers available and like Adrian sets his price at $1 million, I set my price at $1,001. People want to buy. People really want to
Then
buy. That's the price, right? That's the new
that's
price.
yeah, yeah,
Now,
that's just the last traded price. And yeah,
and it's not sustainable because once someone decides to sell, it's going to drop back down. But that's what people don't understand. Anyways, look into Bitcoin. I revisit this a lot of charts, right? And one is really interesting. Have you heard of the pi cycle top indicator?
I heard about it because it got mentioned when I was looking through another live stream from
Okay.
somebody else, and they didn't know what it was about and couldn't find what it was about. So yes, I heard about it like today,
Okay. I'll
but
break it down for you. No worries. But I think it's a little bit of like voodoo science per se. Essentially, pi cycle top indicator is really simple. They take two moving averages. Let me see. What are the moving averages? Okay, they take a 111 day moving average, 111 day moving average, and a 350-day moving average of Bitcoin's price. And in the past, when they've intersected, that's always denoted a significant top. Always. Like here, if you see here, in 2013 was the first top. 2014 or the end of 2013 was the second
so
top.
it's when the orange goes over the green.
Yes, because that means the bull market is strong. In 2017, 2018, also the top. It's uncanny, right?
Ooh,
I know this is like voodoo science because it's just moving averages. Like there's no fundamental or anything behind that. It's just moving averages.
it could be just coincidence theoretically. There are
But
also no other situations where the same thing happened and no top was formed or
look at us now. Look at how close. Do you see
oh
this?
oh yes.
Do you see how close this is? It is really close. And people have been worried about this. People have been talking about this. What I think, though, I forgot if it was Tone or someone else who said that maybe this time could be like 2013 and 2014, a double peak. Like we peak once, drop quite a bit, but then go up even higher, rather than like 2017, where it was only a single peak. Because this was what was this? This was April, and then the second peak was November. So that's a long time,
Right,
but it's shorter than a full bear market. That's the thing.
right. It did have a very huge drop
A very
in
huge
the
drop. Very huge
meantime.
drop.
No,
So how that could play out for us is maybe Bitcoin rockets to like 100K, drops down to heck, I don't know, 40K, 30K, scares the crap out of the weak hands, thinking that the bull market's over and everyone was wrong. But then it climbs back up again to 200, 300K and to form the true peak of the cycle.
very, very plausible. Very plausible.
That
The
could play
market
it.
is supposed the market is supposed to inject
Max fear,
the
right?
most amount of paying the
Yeah,
most amount
exactly.
of paying on the most amount of people. So that would be a very, very plausible scenario.
Exactly. And imagine like if we were euphoric during 100K and then it's clawed back down to 30, 40K. Oh my goodness. We'd be so scared. We'd be so
Yeah,
scared that
like
the bull market was over.
yeah, like that's going to be another 3, 4 years or of hibernation, right?
We
So
would be like, everyone's, I can imagine the headlines. Everyone was wrong. 200, 300K, too bullish. Everyone was wrong. And then they would shake
everybody's
out
talking
newbies.
about tulips again, right? Tulip bubbles
Yeah.
again.
I remember that though. There was I don't think I can find it now, but there was a chart with the tulip bubble saying that Bitcoin, they're like, what bubble? Because they showed Bitcoin in 2017 with the tulips about to drop down to zero, but then they elongated the chart to show 2021 and it rocketed past all of the other bubbles in history too. The South Sea bubble, the tulip bubble. Let me see if I can find it. What bubble Bitcoin? Let's see. What bubble? What bubble? No, not Paris Hilton. Uh, Bitcoin tulips. Maybe that's the right. Maybe that's the right search term. I know they have it somewhere. Ah, right here, right here. You see this? These were
Yes.
the greatest asset price bubbles in history. Bitcoin tulips, Mississippi Company, South Sea Company, gold, 1929 crash. All those crashed down to zero. And if you see my mouse, or let me zoom in on the chart, people made a graph at this point, this little red dot right here,
Yes.
saying that Bitcoin is going to have similar fate as a similar fate as the rest of them. But they zoomed out and tell me which bubble is like this. This is Bitcoin's not the tulip bubble. That's for sure. Bitcoin's here to stay, guys.
But how long did the tulip bubble last?
Not as long as Bitcoin, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's likely, yes. Because I have no idea actually.
Do you
But
want to?
so let's hope.
Yeah, yeah. That's. Do you want to share your screen and share with us the regulation
Oh,
pieces on your
oh,
mind?
yes. I'm gonna try and find it.
Okay, sounds good. Oh wow! Hey guys, joining us. By the way, if you don't mind giving us a quick like while we're waiting, that would help so much. And also, please subscribe. This next week, I have a lot of great videos for you. We have why I gave up on IOTA. Please don't hate me for saying this, but um, I got bearish on IOTA in 2020. Filecoin, gonna do a breakdown of them. Audius, a relatively new one. I know a lot of y'all love Theta Network. Audius is the next gem, and a pretty legitimate one at that. And also Bitcoin options. Adrian is also going to help us with the research there. So call options, put options, how do they work for Bitcoin? And I didn't know, but US investors can do that too, which is amazing. They usually ban us from doing that kind of stuff. But US investors can do options too. So that could protect us. Like, do we want to buy 200K Bitcoin calls? Probably risky, right? But it could protect us if we know what we're doing. And if Bitcoin gets really high, buying some puts, properly managed, might be a good tool. All right, let me switch to Adrian's.
All right. So, uh,
Okay, you're
rec-
you're good to go.
yes, 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 yes. So recently, Ray Dalio was on, I believe, Yahoo on a interview, and Cointelegraph did an article where they accused Ray Dalio of being a manager, saying that there's a good probability of a U.S. Bitcoin ban, which it's like it's good to be, how I say, cautious of big influencers or billionaires or people with in the investment sphere that are indeed spreading like scare stories, because yeah, they might have double agendas, and it's not unusual that people have different motives than they are officially sharing with us. But anyway, I did see the interview myself partly,
Uh huh.
and he was actually quite, um, how I say, quite reasonable in his arguments, because he was also saying that Bitcoin has proven itself over the last 10 years. It hasn't been hacked. It's by and large, therefore, worked on an operational basis. It has built a significant following. It's an alternative, in a sense, storehold of value, of wealth, and it's like a digital cash.
Uh
And
huh.
those are the pluses. So he did make a balanced statement. And indeed, it's, I think, not an unreasonable standpoint to at least consider that any government might be looking at banning Bitcoin. And the argument that Ray Dalio made in his interview um, was that yeah, there's a good probability that the US government could ban Bitcoin just as it did with gold ownership in the 1930s. And that happened because government leaders at the time did not want gold to compete with fiat money and credit as a store of wealth, Dalio said. He said they don't want other monies to be operating or competing because things can get out of control. So I think that it would be very likely that you will have it under a certain set of circumstances outlawed the way gold was outlawed.
I can't
Now,
imagine it. I can't imagine
exactly.
it. Like, I don't know if you saw, but Chipotle, the food company, the big food company, had a Bitcoin or burritos giveaway. Paris Hilton
Yes.
recently got laser eyes on her profile. Like, that's just it's Bitcoin is so like captured the imagination of our public psyche, our hearts and minds. I cannot imagine the government doing any sort of ban on
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
So he made um, a few arguments why he would think that might happen. He pointed out that India's government is already trying to ban Bitcoin and cryptocurrency trading in general. And we
Yeah.
know that China has tried it, but so far China hasn't been really successful at it because a lot of Chinese citizens still have been able to access Bitcoin, though through more illicit means.
Right. Right.
But by no way Chinese can't access Bitcoin. And he stated that the US government could target those ditching the dollar for Bitcoin as it becomes inhospitable to capitalism in preparation for shocking tax changes to tackle the national debt crisis, which is a reasonable argument because, yeah, obviously the national debt has increased and we may expect in the US at least some yeah, like he said, shocking tax changes,
You
which
know,
might,
this
yeah,
this does make sense. So this is something to worry about because Bitcoin is not equitable by any stretch, right? I mean, it wasn't meant to be, that's for sure. But when Bitcoin goes to a million, there's going to be like multi-billionaire, trillionaires, and even people like us who just have like not that much. But even then, we're going to be in like the 1%, whereas everyone else who didn't get into Bitcoin is left in the dust. So that's going to have
right.
like a change of public opinion, I feel like, just out of like human greed and jealousy. They're going to be like, what the hell? That's so unfair. That's
Yeah,
BS.
that may play a role as well. And the question could also be, is the government more concerned about control, which is partly the argument of Ray Dalio as well, because the government obviously likes to have the monopoly on money. Or are they more concerned about collecting taxes? Like you said, there are a lot of crypto millionaires and billionaires which they can't really capture at the moment quite well. So they might also want to take that approach.
You
So
know, a lot of them moved to Puerto
is the
Rico.
government thinking revenue or is the government thinking control in the way they're going to approach regulation? But however, I do see that it's going to be increasingly difficult because, yeah, I mean, Bitcoin has already, like we can say, infected like Wall Street.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Tesla has it already. Multiple publicly traded companies. There are, uh, yeah, many payment systems already. So it's going to be quite hard to actually flat out ban Bitcoin. So I don't think that is actually going to happen.
I'd be
I
shocked.
do see that the government might be, and I think we should really realize that the government is going to be more creative with it by they do want to have more control for sure.
Right.
So they're going to try to impose all kinds of tracking measures, especially on exchanges, probably. That's going to increase a lot, and that you have to declare certain transactions if they're above a certain amount, that merchants can't accept transactions that are above a certain amount. I'm just
By the way,
thinking about different,
about the taxation
yeah,
part, a lot of big Bitcoiners have moved to Puerto Rico. Zero income tax
right.
there.
Well, they might gonna try and do something about that as well. I mean, they will certainly want to have some revenue. But however, I mean, regulation can be, of course, negative, but it can also be a positive thing. Like, for example, Texas.
Yeah,
I
let's
mean, we
see
already know
what Texas said.
that Wyoming has quite well thought through Bitcoin regulation, which makes it one of the most crypto-friendly states in the US
Right.
currently. But Texas is now going to try to get into that as well, because they have introduced some crypto-friendly legislation the that's going um, to amend the uniform commercial code.
Okay.
And specifically speaking, the Texas UCC amendment bill aims to recognize virtual currencies under commercial law. And and if passed, it would change the business law around the definition of digital currencies and the legal definition of control. So the Texas Blockchain Council has been working with the Uniform Law Commission around the language of the UCC amendment bill, along with other stakeholders, to make sure they are all comfortable with the language.
Wait, I didn't know Texas had a
And
blockchain council. What the heck? That's news to me.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So they're actually moving quite forward on that. And if the UCC amendment bill passes, Texas would solidify a leadership position alongside states like Wyoming that have already blazed a trail towards regulatory clarity. So, what's most important is the regulatory clarity.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, and it's a huge positive because in most US states, the legal status of Bitcoin is just unclear, which means that judges have no roadmap to adjudicate disputes, and parties do not have clarity regarding their rights and obligations.
Definitely.
So, uh, experts are saying that like this is a good step forward. There are still things that are missing in this legislation compared to how far Wyoming already is, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. And uh,
Yeah, that's
it
good
also
news.
the article also notes that Texas is the second largest economy in the United States, and our congressional delegation is 10 times the size of Wyoming. So we have much more influence in DC. We
Yeah,
just want to affirm what Wyoming is doing and come alongside them with a big economy and congressional delegation. So there is a lot of effort from state level actually to bring about better clarity in around Bitcoin
for sure.
legislation. So adoption should be made uh, more easy and even stronger. Even the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, has announced on Twitter that he
Oh,
can be counted
wow.
in as a crypto law proposal supporter. He
Nice.
says it is increasingly being used for transactions and is beginning to go mainstream as an investment. And he also says Texas should lead on this, like we did with a gold depository. I don't know if you know
Did not hear
in what
about that.
way. Okay, but that's apparently
Nice.
something from the past. Either way,
That's awesome.
that's why I think like Ray Dalio's scenario is not going to be that likely, though you should always keep it in the back of the mind that the US government could for some reason get really hostile.
Right.
But if you look at the things that are happening around states trying to embrace it,
By the way, can you
the
stop your screen share real quick so we can go back to
yeah,
our normal side by side? Okay,
yes.
let me add myself. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I think
So
you're absolutely
and
right.
one thing that could, for example, happen if the Ray Dalio scenario is coming closer is that if some crisis occurs in the Bitcoin market, and that can be many things, but if there is a crisis with a lot of victims, then you could see that a more hostile takeover might take place because then they may want to step in and they are going to say, let's not waste this crisis to like get our hands completely on Bitcoin.
Uh huh.
So
That's a
so
good
that's
point.
like a scenario where I would see Ray Dalio's scenario work out. But but if nothing like major happens in the Bitcoin space in crisis
Uh huh.
and and things move forward in finance and on more local regulation level, then I think,
Got
yeah,
it.
it's going to be less likely and it's going to be only positive for Bitcoin, though we should definitely push back on governments trying to impose unreasonable control.
Agreed. Agreed. All right, we're a little bit over an hour now. Let me just, I think we should wrap up by giving a few shout outs. If you're on the live stream, please give us a quick like and write any last comments you have for now. Click on that live button to jump ahead. Khalid, Lax Lifters, shout out, Do Freak Stylers, Bloodshot. Any news on Decentraland Mana? No, I have not followed that to be honest. Jesse, Dre, SoFi will let him invest early. I highly doubt SoFi will let you invest in Coinbase early just because of how hot it is. Burn smell? I don't know what burn smell. We don't have pizza.
Di- Dimitri Eddie Charles de Vries asked, "What is this site that you showed for the
Oh yeah,
the Pi cycle?"
I wrote it down in the live chat. Look into
Okay.
bitcoin.com. In yo base, as a Texan and crypto beginner, welcome. It's always good to have Texans here. H Town, we have a lot of H Town. Conceal CCX. What would happen to the price if there's a US ban? Oh my goodness. It would freaking like COVID. Remember the COVID crash of like 50 to 80% for all coins? It'd be something like that. Or worse. Or worse. Yeah, it
Yeah,
would.
it's definitely going to have a bigger impact than, for example, the news that we had in the past, like China bans Bitcoin. That also had like an impact, but a US ban,
Oh
total
my
ban would.
goodness. Oh my goodness.
But I actually don't believe they're going to. I think they're going to be more creative about it.
Yeah, yeah. It's
They're
impossible
going
to
to do
do a
it
pure
with
ban.
the salami method, like
Exactly. I think you're right.
yeah, they're not going to do it like that.
What I buy, I mean, we dollar cost average on this channel, right? I know that's not as fun as swing trading, but
Yeah.
we dollar cost average. All right. Thanks for joining us today, and I know a lot of y'all joined us late, but next week, next Saturday, if Adrian is available, we will aim to do this once a week, in some day, usually Saturdays, but if not, we'll maybe adjust. It was great to see all of y'all here. It's great to have you guys here with us. Please give us a quick like before you leave and subscribe if you haven't already. Like I said, bearish on IOTA, Filecoin, Audius, Bitcoin options. We have a lot of juicy content coming out for you guys ASAP in this channel. Have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks for joining us.